Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome in. This is Guerilla Sports Off Ice Postgame Live. Preds. Avs fall once again in a shootout and in a game that ended in a way that just continued the streak of weird Avs games inside Bridgestone Arena. I'm Jesse Montano. Going to be joined by Meghan Angley here in just a second. We're going to talk about all of it. The Avs late game heroics, power play finally coming to life. Brock Nelson continuing to put up points. But yeah, parts of this game you probably don't like. And then, of course, a crazy ending with Scott Wedgwood in the shootout. We're going to talk about all of it. But first, want to start by reminding you guys about our great friends over at RefiJet. Did you know that you could refinance your auto loan? Well, with RefiJet, you could save around $150 every single month, all with just a soft credit pull and zero hassle. RefiJet does the work. You get the savings. You guys hear me say it all the time. The best way to support us and what we're doing here at Guerilla Sports is by going and showing our partners some love. So head on over refijet.com/sports. Fill out a form, see if they can't help you out, save some money, might even be able to put some cash back in your pocket. Who wouldn't want that this time of year? refijet.com/sports, the faster, easier way to refinance. Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome in. Jesse Montano, Meghan Angley here. Post-game Avs, Preds. And Meghan, I said it there in the open. The Avs just have weird experiences when they go to Nashville. And just when it looked like we were going to escape a game without something really weird happening, that shootout happens. And just, again, weird stuff that it feels like you've never seen. Meghan, how you doing? It's a late night edition of Postgame Live.
I'm doing really well. I'm glad that I have a little bit more time in the evening. I was doing experiments on my hair earlier, so this came in handy, but I'm not excited about the result. I think it's the one the Avs deserved. We'll get to it, but it was still frustrating to see them come so close thanks to heroics from Cale Makar, only to fall short in a weird way and in a situation that has been kind of a struggle for the Avs through this point. Like, thankfully, you don't have to worry about shootouts in the playoffs, but just like the conversation around Mackenzie Blackwood the other game on the breakaway, or the penalty shot, I should say. Right, he's so good. And it's just something about shootouts and these really great goaltenders. It's not for them, and I'm not even mad about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. The shootout stuff, I mean, like you could look at it and say, oh, they left some points on the table by not being able to, convert in the shootout. But I'm with you. You don't have to worry about it. You can get to the playoffs. It'd be nice for them to pick up, a win via shootout. But yeah, I'm not going to get too upset about it. I'm with you, though, on the whole. Probably the result they deserved. Let's just kind of run through this one, Meghan. First period that saw a ton of offense early. Brock Nelson opens the scoring, a couple of goals from the Nashville Predators to answer back before the Avs get one there later in the period. Just your thoughts on not only the offensive output that we saw, the game kind of had opened up a bit, but again, you and I continue to talk about Brock Nelson doing really good things. What a goal from Brock Nelson there to open things up.
Yeah, it was great to see him continue to get rewarded for some of the high skill things that he does well. And this was a great example of the Avs capitalizing on a mistake on behalf of Nashville, getting caught in the middle of a change there, and a really great breakout that sees the opportunity starting with Burns to Manson. And then I love to see Nelson not only beat Roman Josi with this toe drag move to get around him, but then beat UC Saros, who, just want to say off the top, had an excellent game.
Fantastic. Yep.
I have a lot of respect for UC Saros. Like, on other podcasts, when we talk about the Nashville Predators on the whole, I'm a little bit critical of them as a team, but I think that UC Saros is an excellent goaltender, and he's a big reason why Nashville had the night that they had. So I wanted to give him his flowers.
Well,
Which
I've got him on the rundown, so I've got plenty more to say about him. So keep the UC Saros hype coming because I thought he was great tonight.
Well, and that I'll just turn the attention back to Brock Nelson then in
Yep.
the move that he utilizes here off his backhand to beat Saros, because it ended up, being a night where he was hard to beat and he was getting some of Nathan MacKinnon's very best. So that just kind of punctuates the importance of Brock Nelson continuing to be, the player that's put up 30 goals in this league, because it was hard to beat Saros tonight. So that was important. And then similarly, it's frustrating to see the Avs lose a game where they open the scoring. I was prepared in how we were going to discuss this game to even point out that typically when they score first, they win these games. But I don't know if that's even fair analysis at this point, just because they've only had 2 regulation losses through this point.
Right. No, it's funny because I'm totally with you as the game is winding down there. And truthfully, Megan, I'm going to be completely honest. I thought this game just felt like a regulation loss game for them, to me. And so as that clock was ticking down, I was doing the same thing. I was sitting there thinking about, okay, well, how do you quantify this game in a loss like this? Or maybe you don't like it, and then they find a way to pull something out of it. I also wanted to just make sure we gave a shout out to Arturi Lehkonen. I loved the effort in front of the net for the goal, but I loved it even more, Megan, because a shift, maybe 2 shifts before, he gets tied up with Wilsby in front of the net, and Wilsby kind of gets the better of him. And, Arturi Lehkonen's a tough guy to handle in front of the net. He gets to a lot of loose pucks, out muscles a lot of guys, and he lost a battle there. And I think it is 2 shifts later, he gets back out there, gets tied up with Wilsby, and finds a way to find that loose puck and punch it home. To your point, Saros was hard to beat tonight. You had to get to the front of the net to find a way to get by him. It felt like, and I saw Lehkonen again, just the ultimate example of that.
Absolutely. It was such a Lehkonen goal in that it's hard fought start to finish. And it was also very representative of Nathan MacKinnon's night that he had. I think lost in all of this, because they don't come away with the win, is the individual effort of Nathan MacKinnon at the start of this play and just throughout the night, playing relentless. And I think he was a lot for Nashville to contain. So tip of the cap to Nashville too, in trying to keep up with Nathan MacKinnon. 7 shots on net at the end of the night, 9 additional shots either missed or attempts blocked. He was putting everything to the net outside of the power play. We'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
That's tongue in cheek too. This isn't pointed directly at Nathan MacKinnon. But where I'm going with this is he's got, 2 defenders on him as he gains this zone entry, and the back check support of Forsberg's ultimately who works the puck off of him, and he fights to get it back just in an instant. Not a chance. Doesn't matter. 3 skaters on him. This is Nathan MacKinnon's shift. And so he gets that puck to net just on the wall, puts it on net for Lehkonen, who was battling just as hard. And it's one reason why I love Lehkonen and MacKinnon on a line together too, as Nathan MacKinnon, as we know, has that dog in him, but so does Arturi Lehkonen at the net front with Wilsby on his back, battling to stay in this play as well.
Yeah, classic Lehkonen goal. I'm with you. As it shifted to the second period, Megan, I really thought it kind of leveled off. Like that felt like a first period where it was opened up a bit, and I didn't know if the Avs, it looked to me like one of those things where maybe the Avs were saying, okay, we were able to generate some offense, and this is a tie game. I don't know if we want to get running up and down with these guys, not just these guys, but you at the end of a 4-game road trip, there is some skill with that Nashville team, and it just seemed like everything kind of settled down a little bit in the second. Really not. I don't have a ton in my notes here, but I thought this was where Saros started to shine. Was in the second period, and this is also where, in my opinion, you started to look at the Avs, and it's like, okay, this power play is a little bit of a problem here tonight.
No, certainly. And this would be the point in the game, too, where I point to a conversation around goaltending on Wedgwood's side of things, too. If you look at the high danger chances, how it shakes out through the entirety of the game, it favors Nashville. And so my criticism of the Avs, outside of what we'll get to in talking about the power play, even though Cale Makar does get one late, is their net front coverage. I just don't think they did enough to defend the net front and make this a punishing area to play, giving up some of those high danger chances, which Scott Wedgwood did have a lot of answers for. And so I don't think this is a bad Wedgwood game. You know, that metric we talk about, expected goals against, yet again comes back favorable for Wedgwood, who I think, you know, just to the eye, it wasn't a perfect game, but I want to give him credit for coming up with some of those high danger saves in the second period in particular, because it's weird that the Avs had so many power play opportunities, man advantage, controlling possession, and still gave up so many high danger chances from the second period on. So putting that into perspective, I think Scott Wedgwood really played a bigger role in this game than maybe we'll realize, especially in considering the role UC Saros played in this game opposite him. You know, there was quietly that goalie duel at play here, but some of that is of the Avs own making in maybe not making the net front harder to play against. Because I think, you know, when you look at the goals against, they're not all so much as a result of not defending the net very hard. But I still think that made not only Scott Wedgwood's night more difficult than necessary, but the Avs as well, because that just gave Nashville that little bit of momentum at points in this game that kept them in it. And because it was so hard for the Avs to beat Saros, it was a close game. And so Nashville really capitalized on that fact. So, you know, that's my kind of second period, even though it's scoreless. And then we'll talk about the power play.
Well, and so I want to talk about the third, because this is where I was sitting there going, all right, how do you assess this game? Because I really thought that Nashville kind of took it to the Avs for stretches in that third period, especially in the latter half, where it just really seemed like the Avs were having a hard time getting out of their own zone, or having difficulty winning puck battles, and Nashville just putting a lot to the net. That goal that they scored with whatever it was, 7 minutes left, felt kind of inevitable, and it felt like the Avs got back on their heels a bit, and you just had too many shifts, maybe not necessarily in succession, but within a short period of time, where the Avs just really kind of got outplayed by Nashville. And you're sitting there going, okay, is this the end of a 4-game road trip? Or is this details not being sharp, getting caught on the ice for too long, not being able to get pucks out, you know, not hard off the glass, crisp passes. And again, you get partial credit for being able to respond. Like you said, we're going to talk about the power play right after this. But just what did you see there? Where again, to me, it felt like Nashville made a strong push back after, you know, the Avs looked fine for large stretches of this game there in the middle.
Yeah. So you look at the Reed Schaefer goal earlier in the game, and it's more or less a lost battle on the outside. Like it's also just a little bit in some of those battles, pucks, when they do eventually shake loose, go weird places. And because it happened so quickly off the draw, that one was just a little bit weird. I'm not going to weigh in too much on that. But the Brady Shea goal is unfortunately, you know, I don't like to single out any one player. Like there's some breakdowns that lead to this, because this is born off of a rebound that then, you know, Malinsky, Girard are trying to break out the puck, and Girard just loses a battle to Stamkos behind the net, which allows them to cycle back up high. And then Malinsky's without a stick at the net front, potentially accidentally screening Wedgwood in the process. And so it's just one of those things where even the littlest of, you know, what would the difference of this play had been if Girard, because he has the speed advantage and got to that puck first behind the net, have been if he was able to get away from Stamkos, just avoid this cycle altogether. It's easy to look at that in hindsight, but given the succession then of maybe some battles lost, and that just feeling in that frame that the ice was tilted in favor of Nashville because they were battling just a little bit harder, it does make the difference. It goes back to that bigger point of like making your life harder than you need to. Because the high danger chances in the third period is where it was 7-1 in favor of Nashville. And so they certainly just made their lives and their goaltenders' lives hard, and they're chasing this game at this point. So it is tough because we talk about how the Avs are very good at playing pretty consistently for a full 60. And so letting up on those battles is typically not something that you see this team do. And this is a
Mhm.
really good cautionary tale as to why they can't deviate from that aspect of their game, even for, let's say, 7 minutes in the third period. Just because of how that Brady Shea goal cost them. They're lucky, they get the heroics of Makar later in that period, but hopefully that will be kind of the bigger learning lesson as to why this process, like in Bednar's system, works so well for them, and why even just taking like a shift off can really cost you.
Yeah, Jared Bednar talks about it all the time. 5-man unit. That's the way that they play. And yeah, small mistakes here and there. It doesn't even have to be your full line that takes the shift off. You're totally right, Megan. Like a guy or two not doing their job can expose flaws when you play, as a 5-man unit. All right, I was going to go through a couple other things first, but let's get to the power play, because I do find it a little bit funny that is what ends up salvaging this game for the Avs. After I thought, Megan, look, I've been on this show here the last couple weeks saying like, yeah, look, you don't like to see what the power play is doing right now. Of course, it's got to be better. You got to clean things up. I have a problem with the zone entries that we can talk about here in a second. I've been saying you can poke holes and all that. I'm not to the point where I'm worried about it. Because power plays are finicky, and the Avs have even done it at points this season where you play a couple back-to-back games where you, stack a few power play goals in kind of bigger wins. The Avs will go through highs and lows with their power play. That being said, this became a night where you got dangerously close to it being a game where it costs you 2 points and you don't pick up any. And what I don't like about it is when the power play isn't even competitive. And that's not saying the players aren't competing, the players aren't trying, but the first 3 power plays, 2.5, if you want to be extremely generous, there was no threat. You didn't feel at any point that they were, a real threat to score. They weren't really putting pucks to the net. Felt like they were chasing and resetting a ton. And like I said, there's a part of the entry that is just really bothering me, because it seems like no matter what they do to the neutral zone, they keep trying to hammer it. But again, I think your power play eventually kind of, you'll settle out. But I liked cautionary tale, word, phrase you used a second ago, of like, if you let this stagnate like we saw it in April, you saw what can happen. Don't let it continue to feel stagnant. When I think putting pucks to the net and some movement could, I'm not saying it's going to fix everything, but I feel like it can go a long way.
So the national broadcast had a really interesting way of talking about the Avs power play. And for one, I think it's great to step outside of our Avs focus for a second and hear kind of that outsider perspective, just running through the numbers. I don't know if this makes anyone feel better, worse, exactly the same. Ahead of tonight, just looking at the most recent stretch, because this is something that Jared Bednar has emphasized too in evaluating the power play, is sometimes, that percentage might be impacted by a stretch where you've actually had so few power play opportunities that you're not capitalizing on that it looks worse than it is. So I was just looking at December. They were 4 games into December ahead of tonight, 8 power play opportunities, 1 power play goal. After tonight now, with 5 games played in December, they have, 4 additional opportunities. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 opportunities, 5 games, 2 power play goals. It's still not a great percentage. Just wanted to put that into perspective. The national broadcast described the Avs power play as going out with the will to humiliate teams. They're not just trying to score goals on the power play. They're looking for the highlight reel goal. And so this is my analysis on top of that, because I do think this is an interesting point. I think there's a stubbornness about the Avs power play right now, and just observed through this point too, where they return to aspects of their power play that are their weapons. And that is a Nathan MacKinnon. It is, Makar shot from distance. Though sometimes I think they turn to that trick in their bag a little too late after like several failed power play opportunities. And where I'm going with this is it's seam pass, it's overpassing, it's dusting off the puck for a little bit too long in search of the highlight reel play. And so I think the national broadcast was exactly right that I think the aim should just be to score a goal. It shouldn't have to be this perfect grade A opportunity. It's pucks to the net, and you've got enough players represented on this power play that are going to assert themselves at the net front and fight for tip and rebound opportunities. And so in that second period, like, there's a couple dangerous looking plays that ultimately they don't execute on. And so it's great to see them Harlem Globetrot their way on the power play. But if it doesn't result in a goal, it's treating it like a skills competition where, the end result doesn't matter. But it actually does, especially in a game like this. So, like, there was the Landeskog give and go with McKinnon, and Saros comes up with a huge save. So it's like, okay, I think process-wise, I like what they're doing here to get the puck deep, utilizing Landeskog as kind of that net front presence. And in this case, it's McKinnon who ends up being, the shot in close. And then I don't mind the high skill play, like a stretch seam pass, McKinnon to Netchus, but they send it on net for Landeskog to try for the tip in or the rebound. Landeskog is at the heart of a lot of, the two plays that come to mind that looked like they could be dangerous, but ended up with a good UC Saros save. And, Landeskog is maybe the piece of this current iteration of the top unit that's a little bit different from the really flashy high skill players. And so I think it's important to lean into that too and become unstubborn.
Well, so what's so interesting to me is because of guys like Landeskog, because of guys like Nichushkin, guys like Lehkonen, that to me is what is so surprising about what seems like a stubbornness. Great. I think it's a great word. To put pucks to the net. You've got great net front guys. You've got great, guys in traffic. They can get pucks on sticks, sticks on pucks, deflections, things like that. And I completely agree with the assessment of and you and I have talked about it before. It's just, you don't need to make it that pretty every time. It doesn't need to be that every time. Put pucks to the net. And that's what I loved so much about the goal that Cale Makar does score on the power play is how many shots, how many attempts did he have there in the final minute? 3, 4? Just, any puck that came within his vicinity, he was trying to put it towards UC Saros because he knew he had traffic there. And look, you could tell that he was a little bit frustrated with the way some of the stuff had gone there kind of late in the game. But it's just like, yeah, and it feels to me, and I know there's a level of confirmation bias here, but it feels to me, Megan, like when we see the best results for this group, it's exactly what you were just describing. And when you see a willingness from this group, from those guys like Marty Netchus, got a great shot. Nathan McKinnon has an elite shot. Cale Makar has an elite shot. When you see the willingness from those guys to stop and not stop, but, be less inclined to thread that one extra pass through and just put that puck to the net instead, and then let your guys follow it there. You follow it there. It seems like that's when we see them have success.
Some of what I wonder too, because I feel like I haven't seen them just feeding Makar the puck at the point and trying for that shot from distance as much as I'm used to, in part because that was so picked off in the playoffs that I think there's almost a trauma wound around that option, Cale Makar as the option on the power play, that I think they're trying to find other ways to score in addition to that. I think that's what's costing them a little is they still need to be testing that out in season because there's a reason why it does work. I get that it was, easy for Dallas's penalty kill to pick up on this fact and key in on Makar specifically out high, but they still need to make sure that this tool, this threat on the power play is getting use in regular season. Mm-hmm. But I can also understand maybe the intention behind what they're trying to do in looking for these different looks on the power play, but I am not endorsing what I'm seeing. I think in an effort to be more creative, add more variety to what this power play can do, they're overcomplicating it. And so it's important for them to have the variety and the deception on the power play, especially going into a playoff series, which I think is what this is at the root of all of this. I think they're traumatized by the ineffectiveness of the power play in the playoffs. And it's leading to some troubles right now in the regular season because they just desperately don't want to run into that same problem again. But as a result, right now, I think we're seeing an Avs team overcomplicate it. And more important than preparing the power play for the playoffs is building confidence in your power play, because you're going to need that in the playoffs.
Overcomplicating, I think, is a great word. I also completely agree with the fact that I think they are, you hear the term used a lot, squeezing the stick. I think you can see a tenseness to them on the power play, and I'm in complete agreement with you on the. I think it's something that's in their heads a bit here, whether that's last season or a slow start this season, whatever you want to say it is. I think it's in their heads, no doubt about it. My last thing with it, Megan, we talk a lot about the zone entries. And there's a lot of people who talk about the neutral zone drop. I don't even have an issue with that. Where I'm getting actually annoyed watching it is they're hitting a drop. They're even sometimes hitting a double drop. And then they are still forcing another drop pass just inside the blue line. And I think it comes from the fact that I think when the Avs and Nathan MacKinnon first started doing the drop pass zone entry, that really backed guys off. And it was a great way to get your power play established quickly with the guy at the point, hit the zone, back the defenders off, drop the puck, boom, you're able to establish it. Every team in the league has seen all of the tape that the Avs love to do that. Get in the zone, hit the guy on the wall just inside the blue line. That pass is getting picked off. Guys are getting pressured. There's no time. There's no space. That's the part of the zone entries that, me, from my perspective, I would love to see changed. That quick pressure on a guy, they're not allowing themselves the opportunity to even get established in a zone. And in my opinion, Megan, they're forcing that pass there just inside the blue line because it worked for them for a long time. And I just don't think it is anymore.
No, I think the thing that's going to work for them best is to come ready with their work boots on, which I'm not saying they aren't, but to be ready to fight for that puck deep into the zone, because they're going to, gain something of an advantage utilizing their speed, but they're still going to have to fight for that puck down low, I think is ultimately what it'll come down to. And whether that is then a drop pass deeper in the zone to your guy at the half wall to then begin setting up inside the zone, it's just going to take a little bit more time, and it's going to require you coming ready, committed to go deeper at the start of that entry. And building on kind of what I was saying earlier with Makar, the shot option from the point, it's his first power play goal of the season. I think
April 3rd.
Is worth noting then that they have 17 goals now on the power play. 6 of those goals, Nathan MacKinnon, 3 Marty Necas, 2 Brock Nelson, 2 Victor Olofsson, Landeskog 1, Lehkonen 1, Nichushkin 1, and Makar gets his first tonight. I think that reinforces this fear of returning to Makar as the shot from distance on the power play because of what happened in the playoffs. But it's important for them to work that out in the regular season as well without completely abandoning it, because Nathan MacKinnon being your sole goal scorer on the power play is going to be very easy to pick up on in a playoff series. You do have to have more options to turn to beyond get the puck to 2-9. And I think that, as much as I'm talking about them not overcomplicating it, I do think that in simplifying it, then suddenly your guys that you brought in to be shooters like Victor Olofsson or Marty Necas, who I think could lean on that a little bit more, I think you see that number start to be a bit more balanced across your power play guys.
My last thing here, building on the Cale Makar, being the option from the point, that's another. I'm not just saying shoot it to be the shoot it guy on the power play. I think by giving yourself more guys that are willing to, say figurative, like, hey, I'm a threat to put this puck to the net. You're going to force teams to have to get in those lanes more aggressively. I look back at that Dallas penalty kill, and there was so much of it that, we use the phrase telegraphing when you say, oh, guy was, looking right at that guy he was going to pass to. The Avs weren't necessarily telegraphing with their eyes where they were going to go. It just felt really predictable, really obvious where they were going to go a lot of time, to your point. And, that reliance on that Cale Makar shot from out high. And that's another part of the reason why I say, like, I'd like to see the Avs just putting more pucks to the net from the guys that you just listed, those types of shooters, and make a team on the penalty kill say, oh, I can't jump this lane because Marty Netchus might put this puck to the net.
That inspired
Sorry.
one additional thing before we wrap up the power play conversation. But going back to the issue in the playoffs, it wasn't like when we say movement, they were moving the puck perhaps too much, but they weren't moving themselves. And so I even look at like the two plays that spring to mind before the Makar goal that I felt looked the most dangerous, and it was them moving themselves. It's McKinnon getting down low, working with Landeskog at the net front. And so I do think a lot of this goes back to breaking free from the passing mentality, because moving the puck that way is easier for them to pick up on lanes and defend in that way. But if they're moving themselves, especially when you have a dynamic skater in Netchus, a dynamic skater in McKinnon, then you have so much movement that's possible for you that can make the power play dangerous. And I'm towing this line carefully because we could quickly enter overcomplicating things in what I'm talking about, but I think it would really serve them, especially Netchus, because he's a player that I don't think has leveraged his skating through traffic enough on the power play. But when he does, he's very dangerous.
It's not overcomplicating. Go look at how Connor McDavid plays on the power play, and that's exactly what Megan is talking about. All right, I'm going to throw a couple rapid fire ones out at you because it's late. Just overall thoughts on Scott Wedgwood. I'm with you from earlier. I actually thought he was really good. I thought he had somewhere between 2 and 4 really big, timely saves, including a save late where Cale Makar gets a little bit spun around there. And he has to come up big with the blocker. I thought he had a couple saves, including another blocker save through traffic earlier. Difficult save he made look easy. Like you said, the numbers may not fully bear it out, but I thought he had a pretty good night.
Yeah, same. I have no issue with Scott Wedgwood's night. Did everything to give them a chance to win, like a fair, good shot at winning.
On the other side, you and I both agree. I think UC Saros was great tonight. For as much as we can maybe nitpick at some things that the Avs did, areas of the game we didn't like, including the power play. UC Saros had that glove hand going tonight, and I thought he made life really difficult for Avs goal scorers.
Yeah, I was trying to see. Yeah, the expected goals against 3.21, actual goals against is 3 for UC Saros, but that's one where the eye test is important here because some of those shooting threats were coming from players like Nathan McKinnon in close getting denied. So a really huge night from UC Saros.
Jack Drury. I've gotten a lot of questions about him recently. Megan, I thought he was being utilized a lot in the third period, and I thought he had a lot of good chances. So on one hand, you're sitting there going, man, he's generating all these chances. I see why they're giving him so many looks. He had a couple plays, though, where I was sitting there and I was going, yeah, I think he's playing third line well, but he maybe just might be better suited in a little bit of a lower line role. I just want to know what your thoughts are on Jack Drury, and I know what I just said is extremely broad.
I struggle. There's an execution thing that's struggling with at the moment because I think that he is on the doorstep of or part of the creation of some really good passing plays. Even, there was a shot tonight that UC Saros made an incredible save on that I had to kind of double take that it was Jack Drury's shot because it was just a really quality chance. And I don't mean that to sound rude, but there have been some chances he's had off the rush that have been, you expect to be kind of dangerous. And there's just maybe an execution thing that's falling a little short. And I can't quite put my finger on it because I otherwise like to see him kind of being the driver of some of those chances. which is why I have no issue with the work that he's been doing on the third line. But I think this is also where the separation between like what a 3 and a 4C might ultimately be.
Yes,
And what I'll add to that is it's still extremely close. Like this
for
would,
sure.
Jared Bednar was 100% correct. Like this is a player that would be a luxury to have as a fourth line center because he can keep up with the skill of players like Olofsson. And so I still don't have an issue with Jack Duray, but I would like to see a little more finish. And then that would more solidly solidify. It's late. It would solidly solidify his role as a 3C because I think it is that finish that is separating him from that at the moment.
I agree. I think he's finding himself in a lot of the right places, but you sit there and go, does he have the finishing to be a top 9 player? I love that. All right, last thing here. I just want to run through. We had 5 overtime units that took the ice together. And I just wanted to just throw it out there because it was a topic of conversation early in the season about how Jared Bednar deploys his power play unit, or not his power play, his 3-on-3 units. So overtime started. Nichushkin, Nelson, Makar. They gave way to Netchis, McKinnon, Taves. After that, it was Lehkonen, Nelson, Makar. That was a shift where Scott Wedgwood came up with a really big save. You had Nichushkin, McKinnon, Taves, and then Megan, Marty Netchis, Victor Olofsson, and Sam Malinsky. Based on the change at the bench, I honestly don't know if Victor Olofsson was originally the guy that was supposed to go. I think someone came to the bench a little bit unexpectedly. There was a rush going the other way, and he just had to jump in. I wanted to make sure I gave some credit to really good one-on-one defensive plays for Marty Netchis in the overtime for a player who gets a little bit of a bad rap about his defensive game, and especially in overtime. 2 really nice plays for him in the extra period.
Yeah, I remember a really calm defensive stick to take the puck out of trouble at the net front and move it, protect it, move it up and out. And so that was a big thing. And I think like the decision to utilize Malinsky in overtime, there was a stick play on some rush coverage in the game earlier that helped to completely deflate a rush chance for Nashville. And move play up ice in transition that I thought was really skilled. And so I think like the decision around Malinsky is this is a player that you can trust has the legs, the speed to get back. He's another really dynamic skater. And so I think he would be a good option then to defend against what would be similar to an odd man rush in OT. But of course, then the skill of Netchis is there to hopefully help you to win the game. Malinsky is kind of there, hopefully, to help prevent you from losing it. So I liked that he earned a little bit of trust. It just felt like a little bit of a reward for the trust that he's been building, with his minutes through this point, especially in the eyes of Jared Bednar.
I feel like we've seen him be put in a couple of those situations where it's like, hey, that's something that we haven't seen before out of Sam Malinsky. And I'm with you. I think he's earning all that. We got a super chat and then just another funny comment that I got to pull up here. $2 from our guy Vaguely. Megan is going to end up with bangs, isn't she? This was from off the top when you were talking about experimenting with your hair.
I am getting a little scared because like this is the second experiment I've done on my hair, and I keep getting a little more extreme with what I'm willing to try. It's with color though, so I don't think I won't cut bangs, you guys. We're safe, but I can't promise what color it'll be.
For now. Can't promise what color it'll be. All right. I'm interested in seeing where this goes. And then Vaguely had another one that made me laugh. I spy Ozempic tree.
Ozempic tree. So people have bullied me on Instagram for my Christmas tree. Not okay, you guys.
Like this year?
Yeah, because I posted a little close-up of it, and people are like, where's the rest of your tree? They missed Ozempic tree. They're not in on it.
Yeah, fake fans.
Fake fans.
Fake fans. And maybe even fake friends, depending on who's sending you bullying messages.
Yeah, they're
who you
fans, so like they're.
Oh, okay, all right.
Please don't bully my tree, you guys.
Oh boy. Megan, any final thoughts? It's late. Let's get out of here.
Okay, well, we didn't address the concussion spotter
Oh
trying
my
to pull Scott
gosh.
Wedgwood.
Oh my gosh. Literally the most interesting thing that happened all night. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Let me, I'm so sorry. I'm going to immediately hijack what you were saying, but just for anybody who didn't see it, I imagine if you're watching this right now, you probably saw it. In round 2 of tonight's shootout, Philip Forsberg, I don't know if he lost an edge or just kind of ran out of racetrack and didn't slow down enough. Ran into Scott Wedgwood pretty hard, and it actually looked like he maybe got hurt on the play at first. He eventually kind of collects himself. Shootout continues. Avs go, don't score. Steven Stamkos comes back down. Scott Wedgwood, makes a save, forces the shot wide. And then the refs start huddling up around the penalty box. They get on the phone with people upstairs. You see him go over to Jared Bednar. Bednar starts laughing. And yes, Scott Wedgwood was being pulled by concussion spotters in round 3 of a shootout after having already faced another shot after the collision. Of course, Megan, it ends up not meaning anything because Gabe Landeskog can't score. But Mackenzie Blackwood had to come in cold into a shootout. And my immediate thought was, man, the league better hope that he doesn't like rip a hammy or something right here.
I mean, the whole thing is weird. I will say my first view of the collision is really what concerns me is Wedgwood's head to the ice. It looks like that is where he might have hit his head a little hard. And it was very sweet how much Philip Forsberg was concerned, but that also prompted my concern that he's immediately flagging over for help to come. That like maybe whatever Forsberg saw on the play also really concerned him. But I also think they're former teammates and he really loved Wedgwood, so it's just maybe a natural reaction.
Seemed like an accident.
It totally seemed like an accident. I hate it though. I do think, anyways, I'm not going to get into it. I hate the collision. It did scare me a little. And then I wondered too, like, how far do you take this? Do they let that shooter go again, even though he made the save? Like, wait, we can't count this because he shouldn't have even been playing. He gets a redo, and it's Mackenzie Blackwood's birthday. If he went out on Broadway last night, he's probably not going to be very good coming in cold. And maybe Gabe missed on purpose as a courtesy to Mackenzie Blackwood.
New conspiracy theory.
I've obviously taken it way too far, but what scared me most, really, truly, was Nathan MacKinnon laughing on the bench. It was a haunting sight. It was scary.
Well, and I do wonder if, because I know the rule used to be that you had to submit your first 3 shooters at the beginning of the shootout, and that was who you had to go with. But that rule has since been changed. You can use any 3 guys you want in any order that you choose. But I do wonder if Gabe Landeskog had gone over the boards. I wonder if that's kind of like okay, he's officially locked in to being the shooter. Or I wonder if Jared Bednar could have seen that psycho laugh from Nathan MacKinnon and been like, oh, I'm actually going to make him go.
Yeah, Gabe,
he's probably going to score. Yeah.
Nate, please leave.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was crazy. And like I said, my number one thought was, man, you hope Scott Wedgwood's all right. And he seemed pretty upset that he was being pulled out of the game.
Yeah.
But my number 2 thought was, okay, so if Gabe Landeskog scores this, do they let Mackenzie Blackwood get 90 seconds here to stretch?
They have to. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen anything like it. I feel like I've seen something like it at the start of a shootout, not in the middle of one.
Right, like going from overtime to a shootout, right.
Yeah, and so I feel like I've seen a goalie be able to stretch between then, but you have to. That has to be some kind of a safety concern.
Right. That's my thing, because like this isn't like you're talking stuff like in tight, needing to stretch, covering post to post, sealing the, like there's a lot of things there that could be a lot of rapid darting movements. And if you're cold, Yeah, I don't know. I hope they would give them, like I said, 90 seconds to, hey, stretch out a little bit. But again, that just seems crazy. Had Gabe Landeskog scored, it's like, oh, okay, you're in sudden death shootout, and the goalie that is in has been sitting over there on the bench for the last 4 hours.
I can understand the unreal laughter of Jaron and Nate in that situation, because even if Nashville were to win after that point, you just can't really count it.
And we'll end it the way we started it. Megan, I don't know what it is about the Avs playing in that building, but ever since the Thanksgiving water line break, every game in Nashville has just been weird for this team. And by weird, I mean stuff like your goalie gets pulled by concussion spotters 3 rounds into a shootout.
Was the Burakovsky goal that went through the net in Nashville, or was that at home?
It was. It was in Nashville. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I don't know how to. I'm going to have to think about this a little more. I'm a little troubled.
Yeah. It's not great. That's going to do it. She's Megan. I'm Jesse. Thanks for hanging out with us late night. Thank you to everybody who tuned in throughout the day today. It was a pleasure for us to host Dog Nation at the Guerilla Sports Studios for their Day of Giving. They raised well over $71,000. Had some great guests on. Michelle Goulet was in the studio. Doug Smale was in the studio, so it was great. Big shout out to them. Marty Richardson over at Dog Nation. Always a pleasure. Tomorrow's Wednesday, off day for the Avs. They're staying overnight tonight in Nashville. If Mackenzie Blackwood didn't go out last night, he's going out tonight for his birthday. Hope they have fun. We'll be back at it later this week. Avs end up 2-1-1 on the 4-game road trip. Coming back home should be a fun rest of the week. Megan, have a good one. Talk to all you guys later. Bye.
Bye.